You're listening to 90.1 FM WEFT Champaign. I'm Renee Angela, and I am very, very honored to have this guest come in today. I met her at the CU Bands and Fans 2nd anniversary event and just loved her the moment I met her. As a matter of fact, our booths were right together. Her booth, where she was promoting her book, and my booth, or shall I say my daughter's booth, Alexandria, who was promoting her books. So we got a chance to hang out for a very long period of time, and it was really fun and wonderful. And I got a bear, but I forgot to bring the bear in the studio, so you'll have to look for the bear. But I got a bear, and it was really, really wonderful. So author Angie Cox and founder of No Child Unloved, which is a nonprofit organization for kids who are abused and missing and all of that. Wonderful. And what perfect time of the year, which is the spirit of giving and the spirit of sharing and the spirit of oneness and happiness and joy and all of that. Yes. And this woman radiates that all through her total existence and total being. So remember last hour when I said, what does extraordinary look like to you? Not what extraordinary being, which is the state of extraordinary, but what does extraordinary, to be extraordinary, seems and looks like to you? That's the question that I have, and I will be talking about it further on my SoulFull show. But I'm going to tell you right now, the woman that I have in front of me is the epitome of be extraordinary. She is an extraordinary woman. So I'm very, very honored and deeply, deeply glad to have you, grateful, shall I say, to have you in the studio with me, Angie Cox.
You're going to have me in tears.
Well, don't start crying, because then I start crying. So I'm just going to get right into this interview because we have so much to cover, and we've got 55 minutes to cover it in. So, Angie, your book, Surviving the Devil, An Account of Adoption and Abuse. I'm going to tell you right now, I read your book. It made me sad, it made me angry, it made me happy. I went through so many emotions throughout this book. So I want for you to talk a little bit about this, about your background, and then what prompted you to come out and tell your story.
Okay, well, it's quite simple, really. Over the past, I have to say, probably 10 years, I have seen so much abuse in my everyday life. You know, many other children being abused. And even myself, I would just stand back and be too scared to say anything. But like you were saying a moment ago, going through all those emotions.
Yes.
You know, that anger, that sympathy, that where I wanted to just lash out at these, you know, these adults that were doing it.
Right.
And I always say to people, you know, when they look at me now, that I'm, you know, very jolly, very outspoken, you know, as you know, when it comes to children,
yes,
and animal abuse, by the way, too. When I first met my husband, Ralph, I always looked down to the ground. I wouldn't look at people, and I think I mentioned that to you when I first met you.
Yes.
I would never approach people with that looking in their eyes. I would always look down to the ground. But something happened to me when I met Ralph, and I believe definitely the Lord's hand was in that, that I just come out of my shell.
Wow.
I was so inspired by a lot of the youth that I was around, the children that I was around within the community that I lived in then.
Yes.
And I just couldn't take it anymore. I just couldn't take it anymore. And I was in my own depths of anxiety, depression. Not even my husband knew about, you know, what was going on in my own self.
Yes.
About, you know, all the nightmares that were coming back, all the memories, not that they ever disappeared, but they were just becoming so prominent. And I literally was just to the point where I just couldn't take it anymore. And I was like, if I have to do something, I have to stand up, I have to do something, because anybody else who, you know, is an advocate for anything in this world is just an ordinary person.
Yes.
you know. So I'm like, why not me? My book started out definitely as myself journaling. And then the more I wrote, the more I would read back and be like, oh my goodness, I'm getting everything out.
I was going to ask you, did you, as you were writing the book, did you feel a sense of catharticism?
Yes,
yes,
definitely. And it made me, at the same time, it made me really sad because when I was reading back the journals, I was like, I was reading a little girl's story, which was me, but I was reading it as that child.
Right.
You know, and it made me really sad, but it made me able to literally release it. You know,
yes.
And I was and still am seeing a wonderful therapist because it just doesn't go away, and that's a misunderstanding on many people's parts where they're like, you know, you need to just let it go, get over it,
right?
And you never, you know, hello people, you're never gonna, it never is just gonna go away. It's always gonna be a part of your makeup.
Yes.
You know, it's always gonna be there. Yes, you learn how to deal with it and cope with it, but it's a part of who I am. It's a part of who, you know, what makes me, you know?
Yes.
It's a part of me, but I learn how to process it every day. You know, there's some good days, there's some bad days, and I wanted to write the book and put it out there. So, and yes, it is grisly.
Yes,
it is.
It is.
But if you don't write the true story and just skim over it, then people are never going to realize what abuse really is if you don't tell the truth.
Exactly.
You know, and so I feel like that I had to. And there's a lot that I didn't put in there that I couldn't even.
I figured that because there were some things where I was like, it almost seemed like either the story was cut off at the end or at the beginning, where it was just kind of like this middle piece. Yeah. And so I was wondering, were there parts in the book that you wrote that were just really just too much to even put in the book?
It was too
or shall I say the first book?
Yes.
Now maybe the second book.
Yeah. I actually have 2 other books that I've written, but I just haven't published yet because I've been so busy.
Yes.
You know, but there was a part of me that I had to keep for myself, where it's not that I'm ashamed of the abuse, because for a long time I was ashamed, and David, you know, my twin, he feels the same way. But there's parts of the abuse that happened that I have to keep for me, because it's hard for me to talk about. It's stuff I haven't even spoken to my therapist about yet, or anybody. The only one that knows is God and myself.
Yes.
Because I'm so disgusted that any human being could do that, and I can't share it yet.
And sometimes I feel like, I mean, I've been a person, I wasn't abused as a child, but I had endured rape.
Right.
And so I know at some point something disconnected for me.
Yeah.
And it was years before, first of all, it was 5 years before I even admitted that I had been raped. And I didn't even admit it. It just came out in therapy, and my therapist brought it to my attention. But then it was probably another 6 or 7 years before some of the pieces started coming back. And I would just watch something, and then the memory would come back. So I suppressed a whole lot of memories. Do you find that you've also done that with the abuse that you've or the trauma that you've endured?
Absolutely. And this is where I think the mind and the body is so amazing that it literally, it protects you.
Yes.
It really protects you.
Yes.
And that's something that I've learned along the way, that it really does protect you, and it hides that trauma, where it only peeps up when I think you know, when it knows that you can handle it.
Right.
You know? And it's so amazing to me how God created our bodies and our minds and our hearts and our souls.
Yes.
Because He's our ultimate creator, that He created our minds and hearts and souls like that.
Yes.
You know? But you're absolutely right, because there are a lot of things that I'm like, good gracious me. I knew it was there, and I knew it was there, but my mind didn't allow me to remember it at a certain point until I was ready. Yeah.
Yes.
You're absolutely spot on.
So as children, how did you and David feel about the daily humiliation that you all went through, and just how did you cope with that?
It was very, you know, David and I both grew up thinking everything was our fault. We deserved it. Shame. We had such immense shame that we were, you know, like Mrs. Lawrence always said that I had the mark of the devil, my birthmark, which I now laugh and call my coffee stain, because that's my way of also coping with it. Because you know, like depression and anxiety, sometimes if I'm on that low, it will creep back in.
Yes, definitely.
And I'm, you know, and I have this habit where I never used to smile. You know, I would always cover my face because she would always say that I was, you know, immensely ugly. You know,
right?
And so I would always make sure when I would, you know, smile, I would also cover that.
And ugly is not any word that would come to my mind looking at you. So,
oh, you're so kind.
No, it's a beauty that radiates inside and out, and I wish that you, the listeners, could just see her, and you will be able to see her on my Health and Soulful Being show. I'll let you know when. But I'm sorry, I had to just interject that, because when I read that part in the book about your birthmark, and she's saying, well, God is not going to answer your prayers, and because you got the mark of the devil, and I was just sitting there like, you know, I had my mouth wide open. I was like, oh my gosh, I don't know how I would feel if I was a person that was praying on a daily basis, and then to have someone that's really strong forced in my life tell me God is not going to answer my prayers.
Right.
So
and that's it. And that's the thing. And there's, you know, David and I both are strong in our faith.
Yes.
Strong. But we both still have that whole thing, you know, where if somebody, even now, if somebody says the slightest little mean thing, I take it so desperately personal, and I'm like, why? What did I do? You know, and that's still an issue that I have now, and maybe I always will, that I'm incredibly sensitive.
Yeah.
But David and I, there is one thing that I'm so grateful for, that when we were children, is that there are a lot of children that go through abuse now. David and I had each other. We had each other.
Yes.
And that is such a blessing that we were able to sneak hugs in, David and I. Because if we didn't have each other, I don't know that we could possibly have endured. You know.
I was going to ask that because a lot of children we see out there in the world are almost kind of out there by themselves.
Yeah.
And so for you guys to have each other, what did that really mean to you two growing up in this trauma, in this abuse? Because it wasn't even just your mother, your adopted mother, but she brought her friends in, she brought her children into this madness, you know, so you guys were getting it from all sides.
All sides. Going to school getting bullied.
Yes.
And because she would, you know, our clothes were so oversized because they were the hand-me-downs, and there's nothing wrong in that. But she would literally, you know, the sacks of potatoes that over in England that they didn't come in the plastic bags that you have here. They were big sacks of potatoes. And she would use the ties, the rope, to keep my clothes up, and then would not let us have baths. It, you know, every Sunday it was a ritual, but if we didn't have that bath by 7 o'clock, but the click was, she told us when we would have the bath. So if it got like to, you know, I don't know, like 20 to 7, oh, well, you don't have time for both of you to have a bath. So it would continue till the next week. So we would get bullied because we were stinky and we weren't able to clean our teeth and stuff like that. So David and I would even, you know, sneak the toothbrushes, but she would monitor if the sink was wet, so we would dip it in the toilet to be able to, you know, but it was better than having, you know,
grimy teeth.
So it wasn't just, it was absolute mental torture on those things, because I desperately, where other children desperately want toys. I desperately just wanted to be clean.
Yes.
You know?
Right.
Even using a toothbrush in a toilet,
Right.
you know, was better than, you know, she's just incredibly evil.
Did any of your teachers, as you were growing up, were any of them helping to you guys, or is there a particular teacher that you really remember favorably?
I do, and her name was Mrs. Durham, and she was like my adopted sister-in-law. She was an Irish lady.
Okay.
Really nice Irish lady, and she was actually the headmistress, one of the headmistresses at my secondary school, and she was really nice, and she was really pushing on the social services over there.
Okay.
And she knew there was something going on. She knew, she believed us, you know, she took the time out to look at the marks on the body, you know, and she was pushing and pushing and pushing. But still, back then, I mean, I just don't, and it's a question that I still ask, why?
Yes.
You know, why?
Do you see any differences between the social services over in England and the social services here in America? Are there any great differences, or do you feel like that they operate kind of in the same
I feel like they operate in the same, but I definitely, I feel bad for child protection over here, you know, DCFS, because I feel like they're tremendously overworked. I've really overworked.
Yeah.
And so I think that's where an issue lies.
Okay.
You know?
Yes.
And
the lack of resources.
The lack of resources. So, and I don't think it's fair that, you know, there's a lot of, I hear a lot, well, DCFS don't do this and DCFS don't do that. But, you know, they have a huge responsibility. And when you've only got enough resources and enough time in the day, what are they supposed to do?
Right.
Children are going to be slip through the cracks. So it's not their fault. They can only do what they can do. Whereas in David's and I situation, our social workers, they were there all the time. They were there. This was, you know, I call this an isolated incident because they were there all the time. They were around the house all the time. And they could have done something if they wanted. I truly believe that wholeheartedly. Where nowadays, what I see here, these poor social workers are just overworked, point blank. You know, I don't think they probably get paid enough. They're overworked, and these children slip through the cracks. And I don't think it's the social worker's fault. I think it's a big picture.
So that we should all take care of each other.
We all should take care of each other. Looking as a whole nation.
Right.
It's not, and I really, I think you can tell, I'm extremely passionate about this.
Yes, I do.
I'm tired of hearing about these social workers. Well, they don't do their job. It's just for the money. That's baloney. You know, we all have a job to do. It's everybody's job to look out for children.
Right.
And these poor social workers, they're just overworked, underpaid, and that's my stance on it.
That's your stand. And you're sticking to it.
I'm sticking to it.
I think that's just perfect and wonderful. I kind of understand from an advocacy perspective, because I was very big in advocating for my daughter, who I ended up taking out of the school system. But so I dealt with some of the kind of the same situations of people who just seemed like they were overwhelmed, overworked. I don't know what the solution is for teachers. I really don't. But like you said, what the problem happens is when people slip through and slide through the cracks. And I remember how many community leaders I reached out to in the CU community, and very few of them came on board to help and advocate.
Right.
And I found my advocates more on the state level. Or you know, or on the federal level, but inside the community. And I felt the sense of helplessness, because I'm saying, okay, this is the community that should be looking out for each other. I should not
Yes.
have to go to the state and say, okay, state, I need you to come in on my behalf because the community is not coming in on my
Right.
behalf, you know,
Exactly.
or the federal saying, okay, federal, I need you to come in on my behalf because the state isn't coming in on my behalf. You know, so I feel like it's this vicious cycle
Yep.
that we're all using as these separate pieces. Well, I'm separated, but we're not separated.
We're not separated.
Yes.
It's when it comes to children, and I think that's the whole trouble with this world, is when it comes to especially children, everybody should be united.
Yes, I believe that wholeheartedly.
Children are so vulnerable. Children don't have a voice.
Yes.
And if we do not stand up for our children, and every single child is everybody's child.
Yes.
Everybody's child. If we can't stand up for that child, then what on earth is wrong with this world? If everybody
Right.
if everybody can spend 2 hours out of their day to go watch a movie, right? Or they can go to a concert, they can go to a ball game, but they can't stand up for a child that is suffering.
Yes.
What's wrong with this world?
I'm with you on that. I have no idea and no clue on, you know, why don't we take the time out?
Right.
We say all of these mantras, the children are the future, and you know, God bless the child, and you know, and all of this stuff, and the thing is, we don't live it.
We don't live it. It's that. What's that saying? What's that saying? It's okay to talk the talk, but are you walking the walk?
Oh, you're walking the walk, yes.
Exactly.
And if you're not walking the walk, don't come to me talking.
And don't come to me belly aching when you're in that position.
Right, exactly.
Yes, exactly. I'm a girl. A lot of people take my passion as anger. No, I'm just a very passionate person who actually talks the talk. But by golly, I will walk that walk. And I will do it for any stranger. I will do it for an animal. I will do it for a child. I will do it for an elderly person. Amen. Preach it. I will do it for anybody. I will literally take my shirt off for anybody who needs it. I will do it because I believe this world will be a much better place if we all just, the answer is simple.
Spread the love.
Spread the love.
Yes.
My little girl Amber, she asked me, she says to me, Mommy, I know what your favorite word is, and I know what your favorite thing is to do. And I'm like, what's that? And she says, love. And I'm like, baby, if that's the best thing you do in your life, you've made me a very happy mommy. And I said, because that's all God wants us to do.
Yes.
It's not about material.
No, it's not.
No.
It really isn't. And that's one of the things I was saying earlier about extraordinary. When you want to walk in extraordinary, what does that look like to you? And for myself, you know, I ask myself that question. Yeah. And it really is that unconditional love that wells up in me. And saying that's what extraordinary is. When you give unselfishly, when you love unselfishly, you don't expect anything in return. You're just doing it because it needs to be done. So whether it's the janitor mopping the floors and taking precision and great care in mopping the floors, or whether it's the President of the United States that is saying, okay, we want everybody to have food because 1 in 5 children being hungry is unacceptable. You know, whatever it is, it's all about that centering on love.
Exactly. That's what I say, like within my charity. I say, I don't help anyone. I serve.
Yes.
Because nobody is better than I am.
Right.
And I am certainly no better than anybody else. I'm on the same level as anybody.
Yes.
You know? Just because, you know, maybe, you know, so I'm an author, and that's, okay, a janitor. Does mopping floors and me writing books and having a charity make me better than the janitor? No, because we're all trying to make a living.
Yes.
We all have our different skills.
Exactly.
And that's it. And I think also if everybody had that same kind of thinking, wow, great world.
It would be utopia.
Yes.
I really believe that. It would just be complete utopia if we all manifested from a state of love.
Yes.
And I just, and sometimes I feel like you said, as being the servant, and that's one of my prayers in the daytime. I will always say, I'm just your servant. I'm a vessel, so use me.
Yes.
Exactly. And so whatever that means, whether it's somebody saying I need to talk to you and I'm tired as all get out, but I'm available, or somebody says, you know what, I want you to attend this because I feel like you need this kind of break or whatever. Right. Whatever it is, it's using me as a messenger, as a vessel of love. And that is the ultimate spirit to me. Right. Do as thy will in love is the law.
Exactly.
So, yes, I think it would be utopia if we did that. People tend to take the do as thy will. Right. And, okay, I'm going to do what I want to do. Right. No, do as thy will in love. You're leaving out a piece of the law.
Exactly. Oh, my goodness. Oh, my goodness.
Yes, absolutely. So, prayer, and so you said a lot of people kind of take your passion as anger. Was there ever a point when you were writing this book or starting the foundation that it was a piece of anger inside of you that was just fueling that passion?
For sure. Absolutely.
And how did that feel?
I'll tell you, because along the lines, especially along the way, there's been, people have often said, like somebody like me. And I'm like, well, what do you mean, somebody like me? And then they assume that somebody who's gone through so much abuse would have, quote, issues.
Yes. Oh, heck, any type of trauma and you're going to have issues.
Issues, yeah. You have...
Too many issues.
Yeah, exactly. And it's just, that's so hurtful.
Yes.
It's very hurtful. Or they would invite you, you don't have family, so I'm going to invite you into my family. And then the minute something happens, like they don't agree with something you say or you do. Yes. Well, you're thrown out like garbage.
Right.
So I definitely have had anger because if I were blood, would they throw that person out like garbage? No. So there was some anger because in my way of thinking, in my heart, that is like another rejection.
Right.
I'm not good enough.
Yes.
So it goes back to my childhood.
Right.
Which these people don't get. But they say they get, but they don't. And then it spreads like gossip.
Right.
She has issues.
So be careful with her because she has issues.
Yeah.
Or stay away from her.
Stay from her because
she has issues.
Yes. That childhood.
So do you find yourself often trying to make people happy or trying to please people because of all the childhood trauma that you've endured?
All the time.
So how do you kind of combat that aspect of...
Well, it's funny. Literally now, as from about 6 weeks ago,
okay,
I prayed very hard and there was an incident and I literally went, I'm done. I'm done. This charity has brought so much wonderful delight and joy into my heart, my soul. It has renewed my faith has always been strong.
Yeah.
But it's turned my faith into something different towards my relationship with God, where He's allowed me to say, I'm done with all this people pleasing, with all this yes sir,
That's where I'm trying to get to. That's the point I'm trying to get to.
Yeah.
And I find a lot of people who have gone through trauma kind of get into that mode of where they feel like they got to save everyone or they have to please everyone because they themselves, it wasn't
Right, because
they weren't given any accolades, or you know, it was just,
exactly. I was always trying. I wanted people to like me and love me so much.
For
me.
Yeah.
I was so desperate. But like 6 weeks, it was just. I got to the point where I'm like, no more tears, no more heartache, no more.
I think it has to do with being 40. I think 40, you start getting, because I know that I turned 40 in March, and so I'm getting to that point where, like, you know what, okay, I'm done. I'm done. If I'm never going to please you. I understand I'm never going to please you, and I'm going to stop going through hurdles trying to please you.
Right, exactly. And having that complete empowerment within yourself, being so comfortable within yourself. And I'm there. I finally reached that point where I'm like, you know what? The only person I need to please in this world is the Heavenly Father Himself.
Yes.
As long as I'm good with myself, knowing that I'm pleasing Him, and that I can sleep at night knowing that I am a good person, I'm good. So 6 weeks ago, I was at that point, and I'm like, I'm good. People want to talk about me. People want to spend their time being so negative about me. If they've got that time to do that, go ahead. Because
do you?
Yeah, go ahead. You know, and I was literally, because as long I'm at a point in my life where I can handle that now. Go waste your time. As long as you're doing it to me and leaving somebody else who can't handle it alone, go and waste your time.
Right.
At least I'm doing productive, you know, something productive with my life, and you obviously got all this time in the world to do that and nothing else.
Yes.
Please feel free. But if you do have a lot of time, come and volunteer for my charity.
Absolutely. Let's talk a little bit about your charity, which is called No Child Unloved.
Yay.
Yes, the nonprofit that you have put together out of this trauma. And, you know, let's go into the mission of No Child Unloved.
Oh my goodness. Well, firstly, I truly believe this is not mine. It's God's charity, because He planted that. I'm so strong about that, you know.
Yes.
And I really feel like that God allowed all, you know, that upheaval in my life. And I was always saying, God, why? Okay, enough now. Enough. And I did get extremely mad at God. And I would have conversations like this with God. Really?
I call them temper tantrums.
Yeah.
That's what I do. I go and have temper tantrums, and people are always like in awe, because they're like, I can't believe you're saying this kind of stuff to God. Well, God knows who I am. So yes, I'm throwing my temper tantrum, and He knows I'm throwing my temper tantrum.
And He knows what's in my heart right now, so I might as well just say it out loud.
I might as well say it.
Exactly.
Yeah.
We're not fake, right?
Exactly.
So,
well, why even be fake with the all-knowing? That just doesn't make any sense to me. It never did. It's like, what are you going to be fake with? Like, He ain't gonna know.
Exactly. I mean, it's just, I have this thing. There's no point in sitting on the front row on Sundays, right? And then being, you know, a different way on Mondays.
Yes.
It's be the same way on Sundays that you are all the way through the week. Because
Absolutely.
He already knows what's
like
going
you said,
on.
walk it. Stop talking it and walk
it. Again, preach it.
Yes, exactly. So No Child Unloved, and it is a charity, and you guys provide teddy bears and Bibles and prayer books to kids who are sick and abused, and you feed kids, and you donate clothing, and you got all of this wonder for children who have been suffering some type of trauma, whether it's a trauma of illness like a cancer or leukemia or something like that, or abuse, or
it's pretty much it's my little thing that I say. We're embarking on a mission to bring joy to abused, sick, and underprivileged children. And the thing is that I always remembered, I said to David once, my twin, I said, you know, if there was just one happy moment that I can remember when we were going through our court case for the abuse against social services and stuff, I said, if there was, they kept asking, do you remember one happy moment? And there was such a long pause in there. I couldn't remember. I just couldn't remember.
Yes.
So I said to David, I just know that if there was one happy moment, it would have changed the whole course of that healing process. So my whole concept of No Child Unloved is if you can bring one happy moment, one joyful moment, that can change the whole foundation of life for that abused, sick, or underprivileged child. So, and the teddy bear comes in where I go through 50, 60, or 70 teddy bears a week, and it's, you know, here.
And why did you choose a teddy bear?
Oh,
as a kind of like a mascot type of.
Well, David and I never got a teddy bear.
Okay.
As a child. So I feel like the teddy bear is such a comfort. It's such a, when you hold a teddy bear, you know, you get, it's just the overwhelm, like me just experiencing it right now, just imagining holding the teddy bear. It just literally, I get the goosebumps and I get that flutter in my heart.
Yes.
Just imagining when I'm holding my daughter, you know.
Yes.
Instead of, if you don't have that connection with that human being, holding that teddy bear, squeezing it tight, you are getting the unconditional love.
Yes. And the security.
And the security.
Yes.
Laying in bed at night when you're crying, right?
Yes.
Because you've been hurt or you're sick.
Right.
You're lonely. You got that teddy bear right there.
For my daughter, it's a little cat, and I remember this was she takes this cat everywhere, but she had one, and something mysteriously happened to it at school, and so at the time we were going to a certain church, and everybody knew that if they needed to get into contact with my daughter because she wouldn't speak to people with having autism, they would go through the cat. So when she lost the cat, it was like she lost all communication and everything within her. So one of the teachers bought her a new one, like 7 years ago. And I mean, now this cat scratched eyes, the fur is all matted, but she still carries this cat around because it's her source. And I know, and when she starts to break down in communication, even now, I'll go and say something to the cat.
Right.
I'll say, okay, well, the cat's name's Samantha. Okay, Samantha, how are you feeling today?
Right.
You know, and then she'll speak and say, you know, how Samantha is feeling, but really it's her thought process. Right. So when you had the concept of the teddy bears, that's what it made me think about, because I would think that any kid, you know, my daughter has autism, so her communication is broke down because of the autism mostly, and then the trauma. But I could see where when you have trauma, your communication will break down. And so to have something like you said, that huggable teddy bear that is nice and that's sweet and you know, and you can love, and you can communicate with and through this bear.
Exactly.
So I love that.
Exactly. Well, when I get asked to go and do talks and speeches and talk to children and youth. So I have a separate one that's just to, and he's called Bravery.
Oh.
And I take him with me everywhere, you know. I take him everywhere where I go when I see these kids. And he has lots of tears. He's had a lot of, bless his heart. And the children communicate through him.
Oh,
and that's why he's called Bravery. And they can communicate through bravery, and it really opens up their little souls, and they feel connected to him, you know, and they can communicate through him.
Yes.
And they feel safe.
Exactly.
That they can talk through him. And that's, you know, that's who I carry around. And I let them know that lots of children have been able to, you know, spoken through bravery, and they've held him, and they've cried with him, and they've laughed with him, and he's wonderful, he's awesome. But the same concept with their teddy bear that they get. Yes. You know, and it's just, and, you know, I never got my first teddy bear until my twin brother sent me one for our birthday. Oh, you know, and that was this year. So I'm just like, thank you, David, and I'm very protective about that teddy bear.
That's right.
Very protective.
Oh yes, absolutely. There's something else that you also do around this time of the year. You send out Christmas stockings. Tell the listeners a little bit about the Christmas stockings and what they entail.
Well, we actually did our first annual Stockings Full of Love. Okay. And see, pretty much everything entailing within No Child Unloved, the charity, is a concept that comes from what David and I never had.
Yes.
Which we felt that is the norm for every child. So that implements for, you know, abuse, especially abused children,
right,
but also sick and underprivileged. So the whole concept of Stockings Full of Love is that where we get the whole communities together,
okay,
you know, and again, where it is everybody's duty to look after children.
yes,
Right.
exactly.
So the whole concept was, you know, every time somebody puts something in the stockings, it's a piece of love to show those children
yes,
that we love them. We do care. Somebody cares about you. Somebody cares that you're sorry. Somebody
that's
cares.
right.
Somebody cares that
Absolutely.
they're suffering, that they've been hurt. That,
Yes.
you know. And I just think that's really important that they know, because it can change. It can just change their
Yes,
whole
like you said, to change the whole
Yeah.
concept of their purpose here and,
Yeah.
and why are they here, and
Exactly.
you know, and bring a little bit of light. And sometimes you don't need a great big light, but
No.
if you can see that little bit of light, then you can make it bigger.
Yes.
And so I love that whole concept. I love the fact that you guys give the teddy bears, that you do these stockings, because like you said, especially in a time of where you're going through so much, if you can't see something, some piece that you could hold on to. For my daughter, it was her writing.
Yes.
And so she just got bigger and bigger with her writing.
Right.
And I marvel all the time, because I say to myself, the school did me a favor, and then it didn't do me a favor.
Right.
It didn't do me a favor because she still lacked social skills that she would learn in school.
Right.
It did me a favor because by pulling her out, and her light was this writing, she was able to come out of
Right.
her trauma and her shocks and everything like that. So I understand deeply, personally,
Yes.
how just that one little light can help someone maneuver into
Yes.
their true state of being.
Exactly.
So I thank you so much, because it's just, you are a wonderful and extraordinary person. Like I said, I knew it the first time I met you. I saw that radiance that illuminated around you, and I'm so grateful to have met you, and we're actually the same age. We're both born in 1974. so when I discovered that in my book, I was like, okay, see, I got it. So even that, I'm just like very, very grateful that you have started this organization, that you have written this book, and there's more to come from you. So as you expand more and more, and so these stockings, have you sent out the first run of them yet, or?
I actually last Saturday, I was involved in Generations of Hope.
Okay.
In Rantoul.
Yes.
And we actually did 39 presents for the children there, and then we did a big present. They needed a new TV for their facility there, so we did that as an extra, and they were all foster children and adopted children there.
Yeah.
And what a pleasure they are. Oh my goodness, what a pleasure. So I did the first one there last week.
Wonderful.
And then I'm actually, then this week, all the children at the Pavilion School. Oh, well, I'm so excited about that there. So each of those children, they are all going to get a personalized gift, because they too get forgotten there.
Yes.
They really get forgotten.
They do.
And that really hurts my heart. It pains me so much.
Them and the Cunningham children. So
Yeah.
I think both.
I'm going to go there.
See? I knew it. I knew it.
So, and I'm actually also for the charity, I'm big on raising money for schools, and for them to gain technology. And the Pavilion, their school, they don't get a lot of money there. So I'm trying to raise money for them to get new computers.
Okay.
Because they don't have many. So I'm doing that for my charity too. And so I'm trying really hard to do that as well. And then
so fundraising, gift giving, showering of
love,
finding children, because I think the last time when you were supposed to be on in November,
yes.
it was like some type of Amber Alert or something
yes.
like that at that point. So
yes.
so that's why we had to move it to December. But
yes.
so all of these things that encompasses you.
Medical help for children
Absolutely.
and their families.
All that is in you.
Diaper bank.
That just keeps pouring.
Yeah, we have 9 different funds for different things.
Oh wow!
For children, and then I do talks everywhere.
My gosh!
So, but it's
it's all of this overwhelming at times for you.
Yeah, it can be, but then I have to put my feet back on the ground, and I'm like, you know what? Yes, I'm tired. I'm really tired, and my days are like 16-hour days.
Mm-hmm.
But it's for the kids. It's not about me. Mm-hmm. It's for the children. It's not about me. When I'm extremely tired, and or I got a headache, or I got a cold. Mm-hmm. Like I've been having this whole big cold, and I had walking pneumonia a couple of weeks ago. I didn't care. I'm like, Ralphie, I can't stop. These children need me.
Oh wow!
And this is the thing. A lot of these children are abused mm-hmm. and sick. So and I say this to a lot of people. When they say, "Oh, I'll send a donation next week," and I'm like, "Could you possibly send it today?" Because if they can afford, if it's just, "Oh, I don't have time, I'll send it next week." Well, these children are suffering. This
today,
second,
yes, in the present moment.
In the present moment, they need it today, and that's why I don't stop. Just because I got a little bit of walking pneumonia, mm-hmm. so what? I'm not going to die. I'm going.
Not after all of this surviving,
right?
And you're a cancer survivor too, so.
Yeah, it's like no, I'm going. I'll get a call at 3, 4 in the morning, and I'll go.
Wow.
But the thing is, it's a blessing to me. Mm-hmm. That's the whole thing too. It makes me so happy.
Oh,
it makes me happy. And it's not, when people say thank you, I'm like, please don't say thank you to me. Say it to God.
Oh gosh, so unselfish. Like I said, extraordinary.
No.
I believe that you're extraordinary.
So are you, though.
Well, thank you, darling. I will accept that today. Since I said I wanted to be extraordinary. Oh my goodness. So what else? What other upcoming events do you have, or projects that you have coming down the pipe that we can look out for?
So
you're going to Pavilion.
Yes. And then Amber and I, so she finishes school next Thursday.
Okay.
So then, we did yesterday. I have to tell you about this.
Okay.
This was so good. Lenny's ice cream parlor in Gifford. Mm-hmm. We did Lenny. I'm sorry, I'm laughing. Lenny dressed up as the laughing elf, and Amber dressed up as an elf, and then my good friend Christy, her son Dane, dressed up as an elf, and Mary and me. And people came into Lenny's ice cream parlor and dropped off, donated hats and mittens and scarves so we can give them to keep kids warm. Well, now what we're doing is, now starting January, abused children, that's one thing they don't get, is, and David and I didn't get to, the whole concepts, is I'm going to be throwing abused children that come through the charity birthday party, because they've never experienced that. So we're going to be having it at Lenny's, because they just opened their a birthday themed room upstairs.
Okay.
So anybody who would like to help with that, and send in a little donation. $1 helps. I always say that $1 helps.
Yes.
And sick children too. There's a lot of children that have cancer, and it may be their last.
Right.
But I'm gonna cry again. And that's just one of the big things that we really do want to do.
Yes.
Because every child deserves it.
I know. When I read in your book about your 5th birthday, and here's this party, and you guys were sent upstairs, and then you were brought downstairs just to watch her children open up your presents. Yeah. And then you go back to school, and they're like, why didn't you attend your own party?
Exactly.
And you couldn't tell your peers that. So, Yes, I can see. I remember the first year that I took my daughter out of school, or she actually got pushed out of school, and I had planned a birthday party for her.
Yeah.
And she got pushed out of school before her birthday party was to come around. And I just remember I was feeling so bad that year because I was like, this is the one time of the year in her life where it can be about her.
Right.
And she's not going to have that. And even just now, just like she just turned 16.
Right.
She didn't have a real big sweet 16 party because she doesn't have any friends,
Right.
because she's not in school, and that kind of stuff. So we did make it really extra special for her, but still I felt like there was a missing piece because
Right.
she doesn't have any people her own age, her peers, to help her celebrate that kind of milestone. So I want to put out there that I'm really great at parties when it comes to parties. So I will definitely come in and help any way I can. I would love to do that. So
It's so important for them. And we have to remember they are children.
Yes.
And when we think about this kind of charity, we have to remember they're children.
Yes.
It's not my face. It's not my voice. We have to think, it's a children's charity.
That's right. It belongs to the children and
Yes,
God.
and God.
Oh my goodness. Well, we're just about out of time, so let's go through just if someone wants to donate, if they want to volunteer, or whatever, even if they want to buy your book, Surviving the Devil: An Account of Adoption and Abuse by Angie Cox. Where can they get all of this information?
Well, they can get that. They can go to the charity website.
Okay.
And that's www.nochildunloved.com. We made it real simple.
All right. And I have put it up on Facebook, so any of you guys who are my Facebook friends, Renee Angela, just go on my Facebook. I have the link on my Facebook page, and I'll also tweet it at Renee Angela, because I know some of you. I'll tweet it too as well. The link to No Child Unloved.
Yeah. My office number, actually, I can.
Yes.
Anybody can call there and leave a message.
Okay.
Or get hold of me. Is give it number 217-568-7337.
Okay.
And the charity PO box is PO Box 111, Gifford, Illinois 61847.
All right.
Yeah.
So, author Angie Cox, Surviving the Devil: An Account of Adoption and Abuse, as well as founder of the foundation No Child Unloved, www.nochildunloved.com, or 217, is this right number, 568-7337,
Yeah.
P.O. Box 111, Gifford, Illinois 61847. And that's information, once again, if you would like to help out with the charity in any type of way. It's for the children, because the children are really the future.
Yes.
But as we said, walk it. Don't talk this. Don't sing the Whitney Houston song if you're not going to walk it.
Amen.
So yes. Well, I am so, once again, I'm just so honored, and thank you so very much, Angie, for coming in. You'll have to come in again, and we can talk more charity work and just about the children in general.
Yes.
We can talk all about, we can talk way more than an hour on this subject. So thank you for coming in, and I thank you once again also for you listeners. You are listening to 90.1 FM WEFT Champaign. I'm your girl Renee Angela, and this is Women Making Waves. And of course, we just had an amazing woman that's making waves for children to have and feel better about themselves and better about the world. So